back to this little wonderful life. I'm really looking forward to this chat. You'll have to excuse my attire. I am kind of dressed, although this is the t-shirt I was wearing to sleep in, but I do, like, you know, have a bra on and I've washed my face and I've got deodorant on. You know, I'm more or less dressed, but comfy. And I had to have this because this is there's going to be autumnal vibes, and got to have Jack and Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas when it's autumn. It's my new purchase. I don't buy clothes that often, and I do tend to buy things that I wear around the house and in bed rather than fashionable things to wear outdoors. Thank you for all the comments on my previous couple of videos. I am so happy that you enjoyed them, particularly my last one, which was the sort of rainy autumnal day where I was spending the day at home sketching. Oh, that was a good day. I really enjoyed doing that. I've really enjoyed getting back to my sketch journaling over the summer, and it's occurred to me, I've sort of worked out that sketching is something I do a lot more in the summer than the rest of the year, and kind of that's okay. That's good. I tend to do less knitting and crochet in the summer because it's too hot, and I tend to gravitate more towards sort of capturing the adventures that we're having throughout the summer months. I did take some pictures of my shelves though, because we're going to be talking about shelf reorganisation and the way that I curate my books and why I've got books on my shelves, and some of the ones I'm thinking of rereading next year, and some of the one, you know, talking about why I keep certain books even if I might not reread them. I was going to do a big bookshelf reorganisation today, but honestly I've had the Southern Wool Show. I got home last night, this weekend, which was amazing, but I'm really sort of feeling the aftermath of that. I'm feeling quite tired, very energised and happy, but quite tired. So I've just had to restart. I suddenly had a message come up on the screen that said system error. I've never had that before. I can't remember what I was saying. I think I was saying I was tired. I've had a lovely weekend at the Southern Wool Show. I've also had a couple of weeks of feeling really, I've really been suffering with my perimenopause symptoms, and I am getting help. Got a lovely GP now who's been really, really useful, and but I've particularly been experiencing some really intense and prolonged mood changes. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of you will know what I mean. My body feels different. It doesn't feel like my normal body and so on. And it's been a tough couple of weeks. But you know what helps? Tea, particularly lapsang souchong. New t-shirts with Jack and Sally on them. And having a nice sit down and talking about some autumnal plans and books. And speaking of plans, I'm learning Spanish. I am partnering with Rosetta Stone for this video, and it couldn't have come at a better time because, as you know, we went to Spain. You can watch the vlog about it. We went to Spain this summer. We had a lovely time, and I've been a couple of times over the past couple of years with friends, and really I'm so ashamed with my lack of like even basic Spanish. I couldn't even ask for a table for 5 or a pistachio ice cream properly, and that's just not good enough really. And I've really, you know, if I'm going to be visiting Spain, I want to be better at speaking the language and getting by. I've done stuff in the past like language learning apps and books and audiobooks, but I always just give up beyond like quite an early point because it just doesn't work for me, and I just get really disheartened and I give up. But this has been brilliant so far because there's no English translation. It completely immerses you in the language. It uses a technique called dynamic immersion, which means you are given images along with audio from native speakers, and you're kind of immersed in it in the context of real life, which allows my brain to make natural connections based on the pictures and the images and what I learned in the previous lessons. There's no vocabulary lists, and some of the lessons are as little as 5 or 10 minutes long, which means I can squeeze 1 or even 2 into my lunch break, or if I'm sitting in the car waiting to pick up someone from work or a club or something. I can work on it on my app on my phone or on my laptop at home as well, so it's really flexible in that way. And what I absolutely love about it is the pronunciation feature, because it really puts you through your paces and hones your accent and the way you pronounce things, and you can set the difficulty level. Let's just say mine's set on a relatively easy level at the moment, but it really does challenge you to get the pronunciation of the words right, which is what you need when you want to go and speak the language in another country. It's fantastic. I'm really getting on well with it. And Rosetta Stone have given me an exclusive link to 60% off a lifetime subscription, like a lifetime, which is what I've got, and you will get access to all of the languages they have. So I would put my link in the description box along with all the details you need, and I'll put it in a pinned comment as well, so you can go and have a look at that. Estoy bebiendo té. I just did that from memory, and I really hope I just said that right. Oh, a mesa para cinco. Table for 5. I can go next year now and I could get us a table in any restaurant. Okay, thank you very much, Rosetta Stone. I'm so excited. And actually, talking about that, I just want to go and do some more Spanish, but I'm not. We're going to talk about books because that's just as exciting. But first I have to grab a tissue. Does anyone else, like in perimenopause, get a runny nose for no reason? I feel like my nose runs all the time and I've got no cold, I'm not congested or anything like that, and I'm pretty sure it's got to be some kind of weird hormonal thing. I just blame everything on my hormones at the moment. So what I wanted to talk to you about was I am going to be reorganising my bookshelves in the living room because they've basically followed the same format for about the last 15 years. There are books on there where I've never really considered why I've kept them. And I've been watching quite a bit of BookTube recently, like what Victoria read and Charlotte at Books and Bargains, and they talk about their books and their bookshelves, and other channels as well where they do bookshelf reorganisations, and I love them. I love a bookshelf reorganisation. And it made me start thinking about why I have the books that I have and how I curate my collection. And I think I might do it slightly differently to some of the people I've seen talking about it, but probably the same as some of you. So I thought it might be interesting to talk about. So I was going through some of the books this morning and I pulled off a few that kind of demonstrated some of the points I wanted to talk about. I've also got some new books incoming that I wanted to share with you as well. But I'll probably do a little bit of a reading update in another. I might do that during Vlogtober actually, because by the time you watch this, I think that's going to be around the 24th of September. So we'll only be like a week from Vlogtober by the time. No, hang on. What's the date today? I'm filming this on the 9th. So you'll see this on, sorry, I'm now just working out my content schedule. You'll see this on the 17th. And then I've got another video for the 24th. And then, so we've got 2 videos, including this one, and then it's Vlogtober. That is so exciting. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, so I'll do a reading update during Vlogtober. Let me know if you will be joining me for Vlogtober, whether that's by watching or if you're a YouTuber and you're joining in, because it'd be really good to know. Right, so let's get started. The first one, by the way, I've got a cut on my face. I don't know how I did it. I must have done it in my sleep. I tried to cover it up, but I think because I've been blowing my nose, all the concealer's rubbed off, so we're just going to have to put up with it. The first book I wanted to talk about was a book that was really beloved to me when I read this. I think it was published in the 90s. 1998 this was published, and I loved this book. Jima J by Jane Green. Now, I loved Jane Green as an author, and then at some point around the time I think I had Lilia, so it would have been around 2006, she started, I think she had children as well, and her writing just seemed to change a bit and it started to grate on me. But yeah, Jima J, I remember I adored. So I have never got rid of this because it meant so much to me. It also means a lot to me to keep the actual copy that I read, because I feel like my history is in this book. You know, the stains that are on it, or the cracks in the spine and the creases on the cover, that's all part of my history with the book, and that's kind of important to me. However, the synopsis of this book is Jemima Jones is overweight. I don't know what the right term would be to use, but basically she's overweight. She's not skinny, and she lives with 2 flatmates who are, and she feels very hard done by, and the people around her are a bit disparaging of her weight and so on, and she just dreams of being thin. And from memory, she strikes up some kind of internet relationship with someone, and she sends them a fake photo of her, as though she uses another photo and pretends it's her. and it's someone who is a lot thinner. And then she embarks on a sort of fitness program and a diet. This is all from memory. I might be completely wrong about this, and I read it in the 90s. To lose weight, and she loses weight and goes, I think, to LA to meet this person, and it's the story of that and how what she learns about whether or not, you know, being fat or thin or larger or smaller. So to me, with that kind of subject, especially in today's context where we know so much more about health, nutrition, body positivity, and the diet culture that is so bad for us, I'm going to imagine there's going to be a fair amount of fat phobia in this book. Now, my sister reread it recently, and I think she said she found it more uncomfortable to read on the second go than she did initially because of that. And it did make me think, I want to reread it again with the eyes, you know, 25 years on, and see how it stood up and how I feel about it. So I think I'm going to do a bit of a rereading project next year, and this is going to be top of that list. So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Books, whether or not they can, how they might reflect how times have changed by sort of shining a light on what attitudes were 25 years ago. It's interesting, very interesting. Okay, so another one that I wanted to talk about was this. Now, this has got the worst cover and name. It is A Special Relationship. It's the only Douglas Kennedy book I have ever read. But it's A Special Relationship by Douglas Kennedy. This book is about postnatal depression. I've only ever read it once. Again, I read it a long time ago. I think my mum must have bought it for me. And the main character in this, I seem to remember, it's all told, I think, from the perspective of the main female character. 2003, this one was. So it's a male author writing from a woman's perspective, and I remember at the time thinking that he did a really good job of that. I'd already had Lilia by this point. I did suffer with both of my children with postnatal depression, although it was undiagnosed. I had terrible care after Lilia, and it was undiagnosed. And then after Phoebe, obviously it kind of came back up again, although it hadn't really gone. And I had brilliant care, and they really, really helped me. So reading this, you know, I've got good knowledge of postnatal depression, although this is a lot more extreme case of it. And the relationships that she has with the relationship she has with the father was not, it was a casual relationship to begin with, and so on. From memory, she is hospitalised and makes some mistakes because of her medication and everything, and the father, I think, and his new girlfriend want to take the baby away, and it's about that. And again, let me see if I've covered that. Oh yeah, they get married very quickly, so it's not a casual relationship. They are married, but it's a sort of whirlwind romance. And it says from the outset their relationship is an uneasy one, because she's American and she moves to London with him. Yeah, so one of the quotes on the back says, "The pace is thriller-like, so cancel all engagements for the duration." That's true. I remember I was absolutely hooked on this, and you know, you really, really rooting for the main female character in this. I'd like to reread it. I've kept it all this time because I think it must have been, it was before I rated books even in my head, but it must have been because it was a total 5-star read for me, and I've never forgotten it. I think about it often. Little things and scenes from the book pop up in my mind often. In some ways I'm scared to reread it in case it ruins my memories of it. How do you feel about that? If you've got a really beloved book and you want to reread it, do you ever get scared that it might then ruin it for you? So this, I think, is going to be another one that I will want to reread. It's not it's quite thick. It's about 460 pages. I suppose that's quite long, but I remember I flew through it and I loved it. Okay, so here's a good example of a book I've kept that I will never reread, but I will probably never get rid of as well. And it's not even that it was a book that I found, oh, I've got cramp, hang on. Got cramp in my foot. That I found particularly, like I enjoyed particularly. I remember it was a bit of a cult classic at the time, wasn't it? It was in the 90s again. These are all my 90s reads. First published in 1994, so we're going back to before even Jima J for publication, but I'm pretty sure it became popular in the early 2000s. Was it because of Notting Hill or something? That rings a bell. Were they reading it in Notting Hill? But I remember I read it either before or after Dan and I went on our first holiday ever together. I might have read it before because we went to Kefalonia, and that's where a lot of this book is set. Captain Corelli's Mandolin, if I didn't say that out loud, by Louis de Bernier. Berniers? Yeah, it's set in mainly in Catalonia in the Second World War, and it's about a young Italian officer posted to the Greek island of Kefalonia as part of the occupying forces. At first he is ostracised by the locals, but as a conscientious and far from fanatical soldier whose main aim is to have a peaceful war, he proves in time to be civilised, humorous and a consummate musician. And then there's a bit of a love story as well, and then you've got the background of, actually reading this, it does make me actually want to read it again, but you've got the background of what's going on in the war and the decisions that are going around as well. It's a very atmospheric book, and it's also quite harrowing in places, the descriptions of war and so on. And I read it at the time, and again, it's got me in it. It's got my creases to the spine, it's got my, I'm sorry to say, bits where I turn down the page. I've read this tiny text, you know, when I was, you know, going out with Dan when it was the early days, and this book would have been on a train with me when I was commuting into London and so on. So it's part of my history, and that's why it will stay on my bookshelves, even if I may never read it, because when I look at it, there are memories that emanate from it, just if I'm passing or dusting or something like that. And that's why it will always be on my bookshelf, because this for me is not just a story, not just a book, but part of my own life history. And that's important with me with books. You can tell it's going to be a long chat because I'm already nearly running out of battery. Here's another one. I don't remember anything about this book other than the fact I think I bought it because it was yellow and I like Sandy Toksvig. And I think it was about a zoo. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's about a young girl in New York, a small town in New York, and she discovers a small faded zoo on the edge of town. Dorothy wants to find out where she belongs. The Chinese, she knows, had a strict order for everything, particularly the animal world, which could be classified in a variety of ways, including those belonging to the emperor and drawn with a very fine camel hair brush. But the worst category, without a doubt, was etc. Dorothy badly does not want to be an etc. But as she gradually gets to know the somewhat eccentric group of women who live at the zoo and the rest of the townsfolk, Dorothy begins to discover a world beyond the one she's glimpsed so far. Once again, I now want to read this book, but I remember nothing about it. I don't know why I kept it, other than the fact I think I really liked the cover, but look at how faded it is. Completely white on the spine now, whereas it used to be yellow. What does it look like without the jacket? Oh, very pretty, but not yellow. Yeah. Oh, I might have to reread that one as well. I feel like, would I unhaul it? Ooh. Happily, thinking that's fine, that can go to a new owner, or would I want to read it again myself first before making that decision? Oh my goodness, the picture of Sandy Toksvig. I'm making a right meal of this. On the inside cover, she looks so young. Oh my goodness. Published in 1999. We're having a real travel through the 90s here, aren't we? Okay, here's another example of a book that's on my bookshelves, of which I will never read, and we have 2 copies of. And this is part of my life history. It's Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I've got another copy up there because Dan had a copy, but this copy was my dad's copy because my dad was not a big reader, but this was one of the books that he read and reread, which is why it is utterly falling apart. Yeah, it was one of the books he really, really did like. I couldn't even tell you what it was about. I've never read it. This is Joseph Heller's extraordinary novel, which ever since it was first published in 1961 has been raising the roof wherever it has been read. Even now, nearly 3 years after the mushroom cloud of his explosive beginning was first seen, it is still the subject of discussion. And hardly a week goes by without new praise being heaped upon what is surely the ultimate in anti-war novels. I wonder if this is my dad's copy from the 60s. Hang on a minute. Yeah, this is 1964, this edition. So he would have been 1964, my dad would have been 15. No, 17. He would have been 17 in 1964. Oh, I think I already knew that, but I'd forgotten. So yeah, that will always be on my bookshelves. This was my dad's book when he was 17 years old. I've still got battery, that's good. This is another one that I think I need to reread to see if I want to keep it on my bookshelves. I kept it because it had a real effect on me at the time when I read it. It's a bit dusty. It is Bel Canto by Pratchett. It is about a hostage situation in a hotel. It's an international gathering hosted by a poor Latin American country to promote foreign trade, and kidnappers storm it. And unfortunately, their intended target, the president, has stayed home to watch his favourite soap. The takeover settles into a siege, bringing together an unlikely assortment of hostages, including a beautiful American opera diva, a Japanese CEO who is her biggest fan, and his unassuming translator. Two couples, complete opposites, fall in love, and a horrific imprisonment is transformed into an unexpected heaven on earth. And I just remember that this was heartbreaking. And fascinating, and it had a real effect on me, so I've always kept it, but it's never occurred to me until now that perhaps I should reread it. So yeah, so we see if it was published in the 90s. 1998, what a surprise. Okay, I've got two books here that I am getting rid of. These are the #1 Ladies Detective Agency and The Good Husband of Zebra Drive by Alexander McCall Smith. I read this first one, I don't think I read the second one. They made a television series of the #1 Ladies Detective Agency. I think it's set in Botswana, isn't it? Yeah. And it was amazing, but they only ever made one series of it. I remember the cast was really, really good. But I just have a slight problem. I feel I wouldn't reread it, and I'm not sure about a white man writing a Botswanan main female character. It doesn't sit quite right. I wonder if these were published in the 90s. 2007. Oh, it's practically yesterday. So I think these can go to the charity shop, and someone might enjoy them. And this is another example of books that I have on my bookshelf, and these are ones that were childhood staples. I had a favourite toy growing up. My absolute, the toy that I would sleep with, if I couldn't sleep without. And his name was, it was a bunny. I've still got him. And he was called Bunny Robinson. And he was called Bunny Robinson because my favourite book as a child was Teddy Robinson. About Teddy Robinson. And he's basically the bear of a young girl or boy. Was it a girl called Deborah? Oh look, I've drawn in it as a child. Oh my goodness. I read this so many times growing up. Look. I like Teddy Robinson, and I've drawn some flowers. And I was obviously ticking off when I'd read the pages. Oh. Anyway, it's illustrated as well. So this is just, again, this is part. We'll avoid the slightly cultural appropriation cover, but this was published in 1959. Oh my goodness. And this edition was 1974. It's by Joan G. Robinson. Yeah, this will always have a place on my bookshelves. So those are just some examples of the type of books that I keep and why. It's not always about that they were 5-star reads or that I would reread them, but it's about the part they played in my story, in my life. My battery's going. Let me just change that. There we go. Yeah, and the other books that you would have seen right at the top is my collection of Terry Pratchett's. Terry Pratchett, the Discworld series, was really what got me into reading. I think my mum brought me home Mort from the library one day. I loved it. I went back to the beginning. I read them in order. And then I caught Terry up and that's when I started reading other books, but whilst I was waiting for him to write more. And then other books sort of took over, and I don't think I ever actually completed the whole series. I've got most of them in paperback. I would never replace them with newer copies unless they fell apart, because again, those are the ones I read. They are mine and they form part of my existence. Although I do have 4 or 5 that are in hardback, which I prefer to have in paperback to like the others. So I might see if I can get copies of those to replace them. A, because I prefer to read a paperback, and B, because they take up less room on my shelves. And I think I'm going to reread Terry. I think this is going to be my main thing next year in 2025, is rereading the Terry Pratchett Discworld series, but in a different order. So I've got an infographic, which I'll see if I can show you. I will link it underneath as well, and I'm not going to put it up as a screen thing because it's not mine, but I'll just flash it at you on my phone. So it's the official reading guide to Terry Pratchett's Discworld. It looks like you need to throw a 6 to start, but it gives you different options for where to start and which books are about the witches, which are about the watch, which are about the wizards, and so on. So if you want to read in clumps of characters, you can, or if you want to, read by related books, it's really, really handy. So I think I'm going to do that and read them in a slightly different order, because you can do that with the Discworld books. And that's going to be my little project for next year, because it's been too long since I've read Terry. Yeah. I've got some new ones as well to show you, perhaps the most exciting of all, and I can't remember if I've shown you this before or not, so I'm going to show it anyway because it deserves to be shown twice. Is I fell in love with, I think one of my favourite reads of this year was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, which I listened to on an audiobook. And as you know, my eldest daughter works for Waterstones, and she is she gets a discount, but she also gets to see books and on a weekly basis and knows what people might like. So she picked me up, between her and Dan, they plotted and they picked me up a special anniversary edition of it. So this is my very special for my bookshelf special edition of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. It's got flowers all down the pages, sprayed edges, and it's got artwork in it as well, which is just brilliant. So let me just take off the dust jacket and I'm going to show you the pages. It's so pretty. Look at it. It's such a nice size as well. It's like a little hardback, and then it's got artwork in the end pages, and it's so good. Like, in my mind, these are so evocative of the story, like they're perfect. It's like someone sort of plucked images from my mind of the characters and the feel of the book. And then throughout the book you get descriptions of certain artworks. I won't say any more than that, I don't want to give spoilers or anything. And they include the artworks throughout the book as well. And there is more art in the middle. So you've got a few pages of this. This is the characters from the story. Different art from different artists interpreting how Addie looks and some of the other characters. Oh, it's just gorgeous. I just love it so much. This is exactly how I thought Addie looked. Brilliant, such a beautiful edition and a gorgeous, gorgeous gift. I might get Lilia to write in it and Dan to write in it for me. So I wanted to show you that. And then I've got a few new ones that have come in. I'm not sure if this is all my new ones that have come in, but these are the ones that are here. So I'm going to show you them. And one of them was one from Lilia. No, 2 were from Lilia and 2 were from the charity shop. So Lilia's been having a big clear out because she's off to university, and she found the Disney Twisted Tale for Snow White, Mirror Mirror it's called. I have read 2 of the Twisted Tales and I've really enjoyed them. Dan bought me the Alice one for my birthday, which I've still got to read. I've now got this one, 2 others on my bookshelf that were also Lilia's. And in the charity shop for 50p, I found Let It Go, which is the Frozen one, which I didn't even know existed. So I'm going to really look forward to reading these. They're really cute little novels. I'm guessing they are young adult, or probably not even young adult. I don't know what age they're aimed at, but they're fun. It's a twist on the original tale. So with the Let It Go one, it is oh, what if Anna and Elsa never knew each other? And with Mirror Mirror, what if the evil queen poisoned the prince? So I've got those 2. I really enjoy those. They're nice, easy sort of palate cleanser reads, and yeah, I do like a bit of Disney as well. And then my mum passed me on the book that she'd got from a charity shop and read on holiday. She thought I would like it. And then she'd thought she'd found, I think this is a genuine thing. Because this says, she found a note in the book that said Sandy's book to return November 2019. And we thought that was brilliant because it was obviously someone was supposed to return the book to Sandy and never did. But then she said that it seemed to relate really, really well to something that happens in the story. So now she thinks maybe that was a cute little thing that they put in all the books. But I won't know what she's on about until I've read the story. So if you've got this book, did you get one of these in it, or is my mum coming to really strange conclusions? Please let me know. Oh, and that is The Keeper of Lost Things. I didn't say the title, by Ruth Hogan. And then finally, Lilia came home from work yesterday, having bought Dan and I each a book for some reason, which was really nice. They were on the buy one get one free, so she got Dan some one that's out there. I can't remember what it was, but this is quite a small book, but oh my goodness, it is heavy. It's The Story of Art Without Men by Katie Hessel. It says discovering the glittering Sophonisba, oh my goodness, Sophonisba Aguisola of the Renaissance, the radical work of Harriet Powers in the 19th century USA, and the artist who invented the ready-made, explore the Dutch Golden Age, the astonishing work of post-war artists in Latin America, and the women artists defining art in the 2020s. From the Cornish coast to Manhattan, Nigeria to Japan, this is the history of art as it's never been told before. How good does that sound? And this book is packed. That is small text, packed with information, with amazing colour prints of art and everything about it. I am so excited. It's in sections. The only thing I would say is that it's really good quality paper throughout, except for the cover. The cover is, like you can see, I've only just got it and it's already starting to look a bit scrappy. So yeah, that's a shame that they didn't make the cover a bit more resilient. But yeah, amazing artwork. Really looking forward to this. Yeah, so those are my new ones that I have to hand, and that's my little chat about books. I think I've been chatting for quite a long time, but I'm going to keep the vlog going. So we just keep the vlog going for the rest of the day, and I'll take you along with me. I'm editing today. I'll be editing this, and I am editing my vlog for the Southern Wall show as well, because that's where I was, and that'll be a vlog for my other channel. That's what I'm doing, and a bit of tidying. I'm going to have to tidy this lot up. and then I've got to work out what we want for dinner, and I might walk to the shops to get my miles in for my walk 1,000 miles, which I'm horribly behind with. So I might do that, go and get some shopping, and I'll take you along with me. And if this vlog is a bit of a longer vlog, then so be it. Let's just go with the flow. I said I was going to keep the vlog going over the course of the day, and I think the only thing I filmed was a bit of me editing, and then like one shot when I was out for my walk. I walked to the supermarket and back. It's a 6 mile round trip, and I was just really focused on my audiobook, and I just completely forgot that I was vlogging. I'm going to listen to it now whilst I'm cooking the dinner. I am listening to the Alice Network by Kate Quinn. It was recommended to me by an old friend when we met up in the beginning of summer. Oh, I'm really loving it. I've only got about 2 chapters left, and it's really all coming to a close now. It's been quite a fast-paced listen, and I've really enjoyed it. And the narration by, does it tell me who the narrator is? Let's have a look. About book. I'm listening to this on Everand, which I pay for a subscription for. Narrated by Saskia Marleveld. She is doing an absolutely sterling job. Absolutely brilliant. So many good accents. The 2 main characters are, one's American and one is British, but they are both half French, and they can speak German as well. So it's really, she's doing a great job of all of those types of languages and accents. So I'm going to listen to that whilst I'm cooking. I am going to be cooking something by the Slimming Foodie. I love her recipes. It was thanks to Kelly Lay at Lay Family Yarn introduced me to her. You should go and check out Kelly's channel. Actually, she is a yarn dyer and a YouTuber, and their channel is called Lay Family HQ. I'll link her underneath if I remember. But we are having one that I've obviously found online because I printed it out. So I will endeavour to find the link to that to put underneath. But we are going to have Thai-style chicken satay fried rice. So I've just been raiding the cupboards for all the peanut butter that we've got. And I'm going to get started on that now. So sorry I forgot to vlog. I hope you enjoyed the rambling about books. I really enjoyed doing the rambling. And I will see you again next week for the last September catch-up before we move on to Vlogtober. I'm really looking forward to it this year. I think I'm going to need it. With Lilia moving out to university, it's going to be a welcome distraction and a welcome focus, because it helps me hone in on all the lovely good stuff that autumn and October brings. I can see the chickens, by the way. If I keep glancing over the camera, they are going absolutely bananas. They know it's time for their vegetables and they start going backwards and forwards, so I better go and do that. And I'll see you again next week. Bye. Hello ladies, hello girls.